Welcome to Go Home Heat, a wrestling podcast. This is going to be a review of AEW's Double or Nothing. Be the Elite. How's it go?
The Elite.
The
Elite.
It's just
The Elite. 2
words.
Yes, 2 words.
One of which we say twice.
Yes, 3 times.
The Elite. The Elite.
Yes.
Yes, I'm euphoric
Euphoric.
off of what we just saw.
Coming off that last match, yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
I mean, I can be hypercritical of AEW, and there's nothing I have to say that was wonderful. That was a wonderful way to spend the night. And the last match, oh my God, we'll get there. Oh my God, just a great night. Okay, AEW Double or Nothing starts out with Private Party versus the Best Friends. Trent lost his hairpiece a couple of times. Pretty good match.
Y'all made fun
You
of
enjoyed it.
His hairline. Y'all made fun of his hairline.
Everybody. It wasn't just us.
It was. I didn't do that. It was you.
The world. The world was
I
making
didn't
fun
do
of his
that.
hairline.
You said his hair just goes back.
Yeah, you know what? You're right.
To be
That was
fair,
right.
we didn't go all in on his hairline because Justin was in the room with us.
Justin's not here now, so now I can reveal how much I hate people who are bald.
Wow. All right, moving on. Okay, so the Best Friends get the win, and it was a fun match. We enjoyed that, right? And then we get into the actual meat of
I
it.
will say it was a little sloppy, and I feel like it's because these guys haven't been wrestling as much lately.
Absolutely.
There
Absolutely.
was a shout out to Crime Time from Private Party, which I didn't know because I'd never watched any Crime Time, but I saw people talking about her on the internet afterwards, which might have been why that sequence looked sloppy.
And Shad passed away this week
Shad.
along with
Chad.
he was a member of Crime Time. So let's move on from that though. That was you said it was a little bit awkward in times, and it was. Private Party goes for broke a lot.
They do.
Which causes them to be sometimes in scenarios where they will at some point in their career, like the Young Bucks, there will be points in their career where they do matches that are perfect. And it'll be amazing and mind-blowing. And then there will be times where you're like, man, that was a whole lot to get to the end of this. Because, because you're not always going to be in there with people that know what they're doing. And like you said, they haven't been wrestling a little bit here and there. So it's a little tougher, and they haven't wrestled the Best Friends in a while. But it was good, and it was well done.
Yeah, and I like Best Friends winning. I love the Best Friends.
Yes, and we move on to the main event of the evening, and it starts out with our ladder match. God, it seems like a long time ago.
I know. I don't even know how long. Listen, there's a reason why I felt so long.
There is a reason, but you woke up. Okay, anyway, Havoc was not supposed to be in the match, but he winds up helping Kip. Starts out with
little promo.
SCU.
Yes.
SCU fighting each other.
Yes.
You have Scorpio and Kazarian fighting each other. Then Kip gets the bell rung for him to come down, and his whole team comes with him. He brings Penelope and Havoc. Havoc's in a suit covered in blood to start with, which is great.
Rules.
And he looks like he's going to set up to an advantage, but winds up getting hurt by, who was it that got him and threw him on the ladder?
Was it Luchasaurus? I don't know. A lot happened in this match because there were.
It was Kaz.
Kaz.
Yes. It was before the rest of it came down there. Kaz gets him, puts him on the ladder, and then Darby Allin comes down and he does this crazy spot where Kaz is laying on a ladder.
Oh my God.
He climbs to the top of it, has a skateboard from somewhere, jumps down, and puts the skateboard under his feet. So if Kaz was down there, he would have died. But luckily he moved.
Yeah, it was a murder attempt.
Right, and he winds up breaking the ladder and faking like he broke his leg, which he didn't, thankfully, because he winds up coming back.
It looked like he was fine.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe.
Orange Cassidy comes out and
Yeah.
he's not wanting to be there, and that's a whole nother thing.
He goes
and it was
over
well.
and he asks the commentary team what the rules are.
Right.
And Excalibur just looks at him and goes like, Tony explained this to you at least 200 times.
And he wants nothing to do with all that effort.
He just can't figure out how the ladder gets up he can't figure out the easy way to do it.
Yeah. And so then, of course, the big surprise in the match is Brian Cage.
Wolverine.
Swolverine from Impact Wrestling fame is on the attack, and Taz is his guy, and Taz points him towards Darby Allin, who has been a strange thorn in Taz's side when...
He's quite rude to Taz.
Right, correct. And Brian Cage, they wind up having to gang up on him to stop him.
He gets buried
underneath ladders and a very huge...
A giant poker chip.
Yes, and then so he stays down there for a while, and they fight. And then we get Brian Cage breaking out, and he almost kills Darby. He puts Darby on a ladder, and then military presses Darby and throws Darby into another ladder that's outside the ring, from inside the ring. And Darby luckily seems okay. We haven't heard that he was lacerated in any way.
It looks like he might have hit his arm on the middle part of the ladder.
It was an awkward spot, and it was complicated, but it was.
It sure did look impressive.
Yeah, but he's a big, strong, impressive athlete.
Fella, yeah.
Correct, and he winds up winning this match, and so he's got one match into this company, and he has a world title shot ahead of him.
I'm excited.
We did get some spots with him and Luchasaurus, which were good too, though. And those are two very big, there was a moment in time with AEW that you did not think they had enough big men. And that moment is gone. You have an Archer now. You have a Cage now. You have... even Shawn is a big guy.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden, you've got 4 or 5 of these guys. Luchasaurus doesn't even get really counted, even though he's bigger than all of them. But he is, and he's coordinated, and they can go any direction they want with him. If they want to keep doing what they're doing with him, they can, or they could get him into more serious stuff if they want to.
They fixed that problem very
quickly. Right.
Within a year, they have...
Well, Archer and Cage were great signees, and Jeff Cobb, he's on the club, right?
He was technically a freelancer, in kayfabe, a freelancer hired by the Inner Circle, but it would not surprise me if they don't keep him coming back.
Right. Okay. If they get him, that's really deep in the big guy.
Oh, dude, Jeff Cobb's awesome.
And Brody Lee's big boy.
Lee, absolutely.
Yeah. Now we get an MJF versus Jungle Boy match next, and I thought this was really good. Maybe as good as I've ever seen MJF in anything, and definitely as good as I've ever seen with Jungle Boy.
I would agree.
And it was against each other. I think one's 22, one's 24. There were original spots. There were clever spots.
There was a mix of all kinds of wrestling in there too. You know what I mean?
Correct. I thought it was fantastic.
I thought it showed so much promise for those two going forward. I feel like that. This is the second time that they've fought, and I feel like going forward, this is going to be a rivalry. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
The rivalry for the young guys.
And what do you think? At some point, does Jungle Boy have to become Perry?
JR is bound and determined, and I don't think that's a bad thing. A lot of people get on to JR, and I don't think it's a bad thing that he's saying Jungle Boy Jack Perry, because at some point he's not going to be Jungle Boy anymore.
Yeah, at some point, I watch him and I think...
Well, that's kind of a double-edged sword, because the Young Bucks are still the Young Bucks.
But they're not...
Approaching middle-aged Bucks.
But they're also not going for singles titles.
That is a fair point. They do have... It is like a team name rather than their names, if that makes sense. I feel like there's a slight difference, but I do get the point that you're going for.
I'm going for... He's put on, it looks like 20 pounds. He's only been in the company a year. He's very good at wrestling. He's very athletic. And I don't know that at some point you don't take the loincloth off of him and let him just be Jack Perry. And let him be a singles competitor and try to win.
Well, that's titles. One thing. Because what if Cody's scared that he'll be overshadowed by his father's fame?
Luke Perry is not...
Dusty Rhodes.
No. Not in the wrestling world. And people do know Luke Perry.
But also, I feel like Luke Perry was... I almost feel like people have affection for him because of that.
Yeah. I feel like that's not a negative.
No, not at all. And Luke kind of handed himself over to being a fan of wrestling and letting people know that. And he's verbally... prior to his passing, he had verbally said things like Dusty Rhodes was my favorite wrestler and things like that. So I think that especially in AEW world, it's such an advantage that that's his name. That maybe Jungle Boy at the beginning was better for him.
Dude, if you tell someone that the son of Luke Perry is wrestling, people are going to be like, "Oh, that's cool. That's cool."
Right. But a lot of people too, 90210 wasn't yesterday.
That is a valid point.
You know what I mean? Like the last thing he was on was a pretty good show on the CW, the Archie
Riverdale.
Right, but it's not like that wasn't a movie. That wasn't he didn't get an Oscar. And I'm not knocking. I like Luke Perry. He's fine. You know what I mean? He was better than fine, but just he wasn't. It's not like Marlon Brando was his dad.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
I get your point.
Okay, and don't look up Marlon Brando's family if you want to stay in a good mood. Okay, anyway, we'll move on. Cody versus Archer. I really think Cody Rhodes has become that guy that you want in a match if you want it to feel like an Iron Man match.
You could tell me any number between 20 and 60 minutes that this match went, and I would believe you.
This match,
I have no concept of how long it actually
This
went.
match was kind of brutally bloated.
I feel like the contents of this match were not particularly bad.
It was just it was if you took a normal match and stretched it.
That is what it felt like. And
well, what was crazy too is that I could feel the oxygen getting sucked out of the room as we're watching it. You were kind of taking deep breaths.
Everyone was calming down.
Justin had to get up and like move around because he was getting tired watching it. You, I think, actually picked up your phone for a second too, and I don't blame you. It was a long. And what was crazy?
Not only did I pick up my phone, I also went with Justin and got up and walked around for a little bit.
Right, but what was crazy was when they showed the highlights of the match, there were spectacular spots in there.
Good. Yeah, they were absolutely.
They were like 15 minutes apart, though. That was the issue. And it just felt like that, right? I don't know. And it could have been, too, that what we'd seen prior to that was very good. But
can I also
go ahead, buddy.
Be real here? The new title. We have not talked about the new TNT title. How do you think it looks?
I don't want to say anything derogatory about a title, but I would rather have lost that match.
I don't think it's that bad. In all honesty, I will agree that it looks a bit plain. I will say that.
Can I
take the pin, keep the belt? But Cody,
can I just say this?
Yes, I will say this.
Strap thing. It looks just as I expected a TNT title would look. It's just. It looks like they took the side plate and made that the entire belt.
But you know what though? If you would have been paying attention, you would have noticed when they walked out there and held that belt. And Mike Tyson was there, and he did not get to beat anybody up, but he took his shirt off, scared Jake the Snake off when there was interference after Arn had gotten kicked out. And Mike looks great. He's acting like he wants to fight at 50 years of age, and nothing I saw tonight leads me to believe he cannot compete if he wants to. He looked big and strong.
He looked good.
Fast. Dude.
Oh, I thought you were taking a crack at Cody's line.
No, but what I was going to say is if we were paying attention, that belt that they brought out that Tyson was holding on the entire match looked like it matched every bit of Cody's clothes that he sells online. You should have known.
You think he designed this belt for himself?
But doesn't the red strap look...
I wanted to say no, but yes, I do. I believe he made this champion. They said, "What about a cruiserweight title?" He said, "I'm too big to be a cruiserweight."
Look at how much.
What'd you say? What about TV title?
What about a light heavyweight title? What about a nitro title?
I can't win the World Heavyweight Championship because then people are going to think I'm egotistical.
I need a me title.
Right. So when we do the belt design...
Nothing's there's going on.
So
I don't know. I don't mind it. It's not super busy, but I just looking at it, I still don't mind it.
Look at how bright that red is in comparison.
Cody goes over, as we well know. Cody goes over and moving along because we're not going to make this segment as long as that match.
I will say it's just a little overly convoluted, like Cody matches.
Correct.
Why would they have Cody even win? Why
not?
Because Lance
it's his
Archer.
company. It is literally his company. The belt was made for him.
Cody's like the hottest person in the whole company.
We know what we just saw what happened to Shawn Spears after he lost.
Cody is not. Oh, whatever. Anyways, next match.
Cody's only won like 2 matches.
He's literally won 2 matches.
Pay-per-views.
Cody.
He's undefeated like this year.
Once you lose,
is that true?
I think
guess he hasn't had that many matches.
The people that lose to Cody Rhodes go on a downhill spiral.
One person has lost to Cody Rhodes. That is not a trend.
But he was wrestling naked. Okay. Britt Baker
We'll get to that.
had significant injuries, and we've spoken to her doctor, and her injuries are not as bad as the patient is, according to him. And I love it. And I hope that we can come out of this with her both getting heat and...
What I want more than anything is her getting wheeled around in a wheelchair by Tony Schiavone.
So good.
That's what I want.
So good. Oh my God.
I want Tony Schiavone miserable every day. I see him every week.
Yeah, and making her coffee. Awesome. Tony gets in trouble and then he gets assigned to Britt Baker and has to like be her guy. That's what I'm talking about. Moving on to an area of AEW I have been critical of. The women's division, we had Penelope Ford replacing Britt Baker versus Statlander.
Statlander, you got it right the first time.
Statlander, the alien. And this was a very good match.
I liked it quite a lot.
I did. I think Penelope's a star.
I thought they both exceeded my expectations.
Absolutely.
I think that sometimes their strikes looked a little rough, and sometimes the timing wasn't quite there, but I see the potential in both of them.
Dude, what was the German suplex spot where
she did a German
where Chris Statlander dropped Penelope on her head? Not dropped.
No, she did like a release suplex and it looked great. No, it was a normal German suplex.
And now understand this, with Britt Baker out with an injury, that's 45 minutes of TV you can get for everybody else.
Dude, I'm hoping to see Big Swole's there.
And you know what they said instead? Britt Baker will announce her injury status on Wednesday.
You act like you're not gonna. I'm gonna love that. I'm gonna love that segment.
If Tony Schiavone's bringing her out, I'm gonna love that segment too. I'm going to love it.
No, but I feel
Get well, Britt Baker.
She's gonna be drinking Starbucks and she's gonna be
Dude,
like, huh? This relatable.
I also could take Britt on commentary.
Yes.
I could totally take her on commentary for a little while and have them realize how good she is at it and keep her there.
I feel like doing commentary, she should just be brushing her teeth the entire show.
Just yelling at
I have to floss, Tony. You should probably do that too.
Dude, it's super. You can't floss loudly, but she should do something obnoxiously loud.
Just put the microphone very close to her teeth.
Go ahead. What were you going to say?
ASMR teeth brushing on commentary. I will say that Big Swole did awesome tonight. She was absolutely fantastic for reactions.
And if attitude matters, her performance outside of the ring tonight should get her in the ring soon, because she proved she was not jealous or whatever. She was in every match screaming,
dude, she was
hollering.
ready to throw hands with Nyla when she came over there.
She was ready to throw hands with Archer.
Yes, she was.
You know, I mean, come on.
It made it more
it should matter, right?
Absolutely. And I think, especially with Britt being injured, that she will get more time.
And you could totally feel a team atmosphere at the arena. It had a big fight feel with only 40 people there. You know, the whole event.
The crowd, all the wrestlers did a great job.
Spectacle. That's what JR called it. All right. So Statlander gets the win, and that makes her the number one contender, correct?
I'm happy with that.
Now, Shawn Spears versus Dustin Rhodes is next. Shawn has called for this match. We don't know if Dustin's going to show. That is the storyline we're going with. Shawn fakes us out with the whole Dustin's here to fight. This music plays. He laughs. He couldn't help but do that to us. He threatens Aubrey to count him out. Let's get this over with. And then Shawn gets to do what probably every wrestler in the history of wrestling has wanted. He gets to be Ric Flair for just a little bit.
He gets attacked by Dustin. He gets his
Dustin
suit ripped
shows
off.
up from behind, rips his suit off. He and every bit of it. Ric Flair wore the same kind of little garter. What are they called?
The sock garters, or
he wore those same things on his legs that Rick would wear with his fancy suits. He crawled around in his underwear.
His underwear had Tully Blanchard on it.
He pulled the underwear down to where his butt was showing. Ric Flair did that every week. It was not every week, but he did it enough that it was a part of his shtick. And so in this match that counts, Dustin goes over. Shawn gets humiliated. We don't know where all this leads to. Shawn had a picture of Tully covering his tallywhacker.
I thought his junk was out for a second.
Did you at first?
It was skin. I mean, it's skin colored, so I thought it.
Correct, because it's Tully's face.
Yeah, I figured his
I thought that it was.
belly.
I didn't know. I thought it was a rose. I thought it was a rose, and I thought that was like some kind of weird callback because there was
some symbolism.
No, there's a movie where there's a movie called Bull Durham, and a pitcher in Bull Durham is dating a girl, and he's like got bad luck, and she tells him to wear her little garter thing, and there's a rose on it, and
he also has
and he's
garters
like
on
real
his socks.
ashamed of having to wear it, and he's like all nervous about having to wear it, and the catcher walks by, and he goes, "The rose goes in front, big guy." He just keeps walking, no big deal, right? So I thought this is weird that they brought that in there, but then as they gave us the close up of Tully, it got way weirder.
Way weirder. I really wish it was a rose.
Yeah, I had no, dude. That was a lot.
I thought the Tully bit was too much, but as for the rest of it, I mean, it's.
Well,
Dustin probably.
I think what we
loved
saw
it.
tonight was they're of the opinion you can never go too far. It's a Ferris Bueller company.
Yeah, I commend that thought process.
Yeah, right. Why not?
I think they're maybe not hitting with all of them, but swinging for the fences
All the time.
All the time.
Mhm.
I thought this segment was honestly cringy as all
Cringy,
get
I
out.
hated
The whole
it.
thing, huh? You didn't like it?
No,
Yeah, you're worried about Sean,
No,
where he goes. I get it.
no.
Now, let's
It's
move.
like how do you fall that far?
I don't.
That
I get what
quickly?
you mean from where he was beaming. I think it's beaning Cody over the head with the chair.
Yes. Hit him right in the beaner with a chair.
Right in the beaner.
Don't.
That's some kind of slur or something.
Right.
That's actually very much a slur.
So now that we've been racist on accident, it's okay.
Wait,
from hitting
what?
Cody in the head with a chair to getting stripped almost naked.
Having Tully Blanchard over.
He
the
should
crotch.
maybe not wrestle the roads anymore.
He has a bad track record against
I wouldn't even wrestle Brandy at this point.
No.
Dude,
No.
Cody went, "Hey, you know what I saw? You know what was funny in 1980? Hey, you know that was really funny back
Dustin said that, not Cody.
Dustin-
Cody
no, yeah.
Dustin's like,
Dustin-
you know what? I saw a bunch. Ric Flair getting stripped naked
By my dad.
by my dad.
Right, which is what you got here.
Yeah, I mean, it was old school.
Yeah.
It was-
Okay, so moving on, after Dustin gets a win that counts, Nyla Rose versus Hikaru Shida, and this was great.
I thought this match.
They fought all over the place. They were tough with each other. You had the callback to Passenger 57 when Nyla Rose puts Shida through the poker table, the
It was a
poker table, and then she looks at it and goes, "Always bet on black," which is a line from the movie.
So cool.
So good, right? And then she gets into it with all of the people around the ring yelling at him. Shida takes all the beatings, and on a weekend when she could have probably really used it, she gets to be the world champ. Shida withstands all of the punishment. She dishes some out. I've been hypercritical of her performances,
This was her best performance.
and yet
though.
she was very good tonight. And she was good on Dark.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know. I think it. I don't know. Maybe she is just getting more familiar.
Maybe she wasn't always the problem. A lot of those matches were with somebody else.
We're with.
Listen, we won't speak ill of the injured.
With our favorite commentator. All right, AEW World Title match. Brody Lee and John Moxley. This was awesome.
I like this match more than I thought I would.
I thought
I didn't have the world's highest expectations going in.
I thought this match was great for what it was, but I do feel like it stopped kind of abruptly.
I still don't get that.
He choked him out.
He hit him with like two finishers and one through like the part of the entrance.
In the world of kayfabe, he paradigm shifted him through the stage, got him into the ring, paradigm shifted him again, he kicked out on one. Hit him a bunch of times in the head, paradigm shifted him again, he kicks out on two.
Like a raised paradigm shift
Right.
too.
Then he rolls him into a sleeper hold and now the guy's bleeding from the head. His head has been jammed into the ground 3 times, once from high up, once from not high up, and then once from a little bit high up. And then he gets choked out to where he goes to sleep.
And he passes out.
I guess.
And nobody's awake with oxygen. without oxygen.
I just thought he should have hit him with another paradigm shift since I don't.
You wanted like a pin.
I know. I just don't. He should have built up the sleeper in other matches. I just didn't.
I think he's used a couple chokes, but I do see your point.
It's just.
He hasn't used it as like a finisher, if that makes sense. I don't think so.
Or they could have done a Stone Cold.
I loved it.
You.
Go ahead.
Or they could have done a Stone Cold Brody.
I absolutely loved it. Go ahead. What were you saying?
Or they could have done a Stone Cold. Or they could have done a Stone Cold Brody just bleeds out from like a sharpshooter.
Dude, that would have been so much better if he would have just fell out in a puddle of his own blood.
He didn't blade that deep. He did not pull an Eddie Guerrero.
I was kidding.
He was blading.
I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying.
Real blood. Come on.
I hope it wasn't real blood because John bit his head.
He did, and then when he was looking at the camera screaming, I thought, has he got a bloody lip? And I'm like, no, that's Brody's blood on his mouth.
It's unsanitary.
Renee's never kissing that guy again.
Renee says, don't come home for 2 weeks.
No, it's 14 days.
14
Don't come up until you get
stay in Jacksonville.
Oh my God. Okay. So the world champ retains, and then we move on to the main event of the evening, a Stadium Stampede match. No clue what this was going to entail. An All Elite versus the Inner Circle. Oh my God, this was entertaining.
I love how they set up a ring and spent all of 90 seconds in it.
But it was there for a reason. It fooled you.
It fooled me. It fooled me.
There was a ring there. They come out and they fight their way to the ring, and they have a little bit of a wrestling match. And you should have known that was a fooler, because then it go all over the place. Go.
This type of thing is like, it's an only see to believe type of
It
thing.
is hard. It would be hard to try to explain to people how great it was.
There were so many moving parts, but
I don't really.
We'll paint the broad strokes. So Hangman didn't show up for the first game.
Hangman shows up in like the middle of the match, not like at the middle of the match because the match was like an hour.
Like a couple minutes.
But like a couple minutes in, and he starts on the horse,
chasing Sammy down. Sammy has had the worst night of anyone. Worst month. He has been dropped on his head, run over, killed.
And a part of the story here is that Sammy is the guy who gets beat up the worst.
Yes.
Because as the match itself goes on, even though Hangman loses track of him and goes to the bar to drink, you wind up with him getting beat up by the Young Bucks for a while. Then we flip ahead and we get a scenario where Matt Hardy is fighting both of the Pride and Powerful, Santana and Ortiz. They get him into the water, and there are fun segments there because Ortiz claims he can't swim. It's only a 3-foot pool. Every time they put Matt underwater, it's a football stadium with a small 3-foot walking pool, right? So you can see under. It's plexiglass. There's one side of it. So when they put him under, Matt's very comfortable in water, so he makes hand signals and laughs as he's under there. When he comes out, he's a different personality.
He's a different version of Matt. Big Money Matt, V1 Matt,
Damascus.
Broken Damascus. Yeah.
Right.
He cycled through them as they kind of kept dunking him under the water.
Right. And so eventually he flips the thing and winds up getting the better of them when he gets Ortiz's head into the bell that they ring to start. It's like a 12th man thing with football. And he rings the bell, and Ortiz gets to shaking outside of it. He
starts having some kind of spasm.
Well, it's very Venom-esque. You know how Venom would shake when the bells got to him? Ortiz did. I'm sure Ortiz got that from there.
Ortiz is absolutely from outer space.
Yes.
He's a symbiote.
Yes.
From outer space. That's
absolutely.
What I'm getting from this segment.
Then he gets
referencing Spider-Man 3.
Then he gets.
That is not no.
Then he gets.
Yes, but also no.
Then he gets duct taped to the wheelchair and pushed in a different direction. Ortiz winds up getting
stuffed in an ice,
which is a callback to 2 weeks ago when it happened to Matt.
They stuffed Matt in there, and then he puts the broom handle in. So that's Ortiz and Santana out of the match.
Correct. And now we move on, and we have Hangman in a bar drinking, and Hagar finds him. And they have a fantastic little bar fight, complete with him getting Hangman drugged across the bar,
through shot glasses and drinks and all that stuff. It was perfect.
Correct. And then Kenny comes through and swings the tide because there's 2-on-1 now. But it took him 3 to 4 champagne bottles upside
they
the
kept
head.
smacking him upside the head, and I was like, woo.
Yeah.
Woo. It looked great.
It did, and Hagar came off looking very imposing, even though he's not able to move when it's all over. I mean, he took 4 champagne bottles to the head.
And then
a V-trigger
and a finisher to keep him down.
Correct. In the cool spot where he didn't have a rope to flip over, so
for the buckshot
Omega
lariat.
gave him to flip over for the buckshot lariat. Was well done.
That was cool.
And then we move on, and I know this sounds like a lot, and it's because it was. Then we get Jericho and the Bucks fighting, and we get a spot where one of the Bucks is thrown into the mouth of a big jaguar. We get a spot where they call for a review on a pin, and Aubrey Edwards and Jericho go into the review booth, and they look at it a couple times, and then Jericho tells her she's a poopy ref, and it's just so much. We get a spot where Sammy Guevara is with Jackson.
I almost said Mick Jackson. That's not one of the Jacksons. Matt Jackson. And they do the locomotion suplex. It's like a Northern Lights, but you just, as soon as you do it, you just flip over and then do it.
And
again.
he'll do it 3 or 4, maybe even 5 times in a match. Well, he did it 5 times, and they cut away to Jericho, and they watch Jericho fight for a while. They go back, he's at midfield. So
because he started out
in theory, this lasts for 100 yards, and then he spikes Sammy's head into the turf right afterwards. Jericho winds up getting incapacitated when Matt Jackson runs down the floor, or Nick.
Yeah.
Runs down the stadium steps, springboards onto him on a table, and when he's unconscious, Hangman paints the middle of his body white with the thing they do the sideline with, the paint thing they do the sideline with. Sammy is out cold on top of the sprinkler system. It accidentally it's turned on and wakes Sammy up in time for him to stand up and believe he won the fight, which he did not.
No. Turns
around, and the golf cart that almost killed him 2 weeks ago is now chasing him. He runs up into the... Man, it was a lot.
Dude, it was so good, though.
It was
every single
great.
part of it was so purely entertaining.
Yeah, and Sammy was able to leap up to different levels of this in his retreat of the stadium, and he winds up in an area where Omega gets him in a...
One-winged angel,
and they go off.
Dude,
it's like...
To look like a 15-foot drop to an area that was prepped for them to fall onto, but it still looked like plywood or whatever.
When I thought the fall was going to end, just kept
kept going.
Steeper and steeper and steeper and steeper.
Yeah, I thought he was going to put him on the thing he was standing on. Like, I didn't think they were going off of that. And when he went off, I was like, oh, and then like you said, there's no landing, right? And then when they go through, then Aubrey gets on a ladder, climbs up 1, 2, 3, and it was spectacular. And if this is too hokey for you, I totally get it. It was perfect.
It was fun. I feel like this pay-per-view as a whole gave me a lot of different little things.
And it gave me so much. We're 1 year in. They keep saying over and over, the company's 1 year old. We're 1 year in, and I have so much hope for the future of what this is going to do. And I have doubted that periodically over this time period. This was wonderful. I mean, if I can get a couple more Iron Man matches with Cody Rhodes, come on.
If I can get
that was not what you expected.
If I can get...
No, that's not exactly what I thought. But I
if I can get a couple more Sean Spears, Tully Blanchard over the crotch moments, that would be great.
I'd love that. If I could see more bare man ass on my pay-per-views, I think that would be...
Right.
Ideal.
Right. Or if I can just get Matt Hardy swimming as much as possible.
Yes.
Because every time he comes out of the water, he's a new person.
It's so fun.
It's the whole baptism, but different.
This is just like how it is in Lutheran churches.
I feel like I've been to church right now, and I'm happy about it.
He comes up as Brandy.
That would be a fun spot for him to come up as someone else.
No, he comes up as Britt Baker.
Comes up as Luther from the death matches.
Comes up as Britt.
Man.
He can't come up.
I don't know, dude. Matt Hardy has impressed me. I knew he was going to be entertaining, but he looks great. He moves pretty good.
Think about the open, and do we even, without this crisis, You don't stick them in a stadium with nobody and let them do whatever.
Oh, dude, this was so good.
You know, we talked
This
about
was
the
the optimal
cinematic
choice.
whatever, and the show we had with the episode we had with Nick where we talked cinematic stuff. You took the Jacksons, and you took Jericho, and you took Sammy, and you took Hangman, and you allowed Kenny Omega, and you allowed them to paint on a completely blank canvas of a football stadium. What kind of spots do you want? And you gave us the weirdest, all the way down to somebody probably said, which one of you guys could throw a football pretty hard? And Nick was like, I can, and he's just pelting Jericho
Dude,
with
he got
footballs.
real close to it.
Yeah, he was pelting him. You know, they come out wearing helmets. It was
Shinsuke versus AJ.
There's a who says Heyman's going to ride a horse?
Heyman's gonna ride a horse.
Of course he is.
They kept talking about how beautiful the horse was, and it was.
Right,
Up
and
in
he
the
looked
colors.
great in the saddle. You can tell he really is a cowboy to some degree. The fight in the bar, of course, Hangman's going to have a fight in the bar.
Dude, yes, of course he's gonna get dragged along the bar.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Of course, and even to the spot where Hangman pours Omega a glass of milk and Omega pours
I love
him
that, dude.
some whiskey and then they drink. It was just well done. And I had a great night. You had a great night.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought it was fun.
I thought it was fun.
I'll take
Oh,
it.
the
I'll
go
take
home eat kid almost smiled.
I thought it was a fun mixed bag.
Wow.
fun mixed bag, but still fun.
Right.
Still
Heavy
fun.
on the fun.
Had its moments.
Light on the mixed bag.
Had its
I
moments.
like
Yes.
it. It had its moment. Okay, then for New Japan Jared, for the Go Home Heat Kid Ray, for me KP, we had a blast watching this. I hope you had a good time listening to us talk about it. This has been a Go Home Heat production, copyright 2020. Go home.